Hello and welcome to the ConstructorCast, your AGC place for all the news, views, and interviews relevant to your construction business. I'm your host, Leah Pilkonis. This is the second episode in our COVID-19 Special Edition series, where AGC will bring you timely information on factors that construction companies need to consider as they strive for business continuity in these challenging and unprecedented times. Our game plan for the foreseeable future is to release a new episode at the start of each week. We want to call your attention to noteworthy things that we expect to happen in the days ahead and share with you how AGC is involved and how we're representing the interest of the construction industry. We know that things are moving really fast and that you have a lot of questions and a lot of concerns. I want to remind everybody that we have a central location on our website with a fantastic amount of resources and information. Check out www.agc.org/coronavirus for continual updates and information. So today I have two of my AGC colleagues with me. I'd like to welcome them both, and I want to just ask them to introduce themselves and share a little bit about who they are. Matt, why don't you go ahead first?
Hi, my name is Matt Turkstra, and I'm the Director of Tax, Fiscal Affairs, and Accounting, and I advocate on behalf of the construction industry on Capitol Hill and the administration.
Great. Thanks so much for being with us, Matt. Kevin, how about you?
Hi, I'm Kevin Cannon. I'm the Senior Director of Safety and Health Services with AGC of America. And, my primary responsibility is to help our members with technical advice on complying with OSHA standards and working with the federal agency itself and trying to help them understand our industry as they promulgate rules.
Thanks, Kevin. Well, Kevin, I'm going to stick with you. And I know you guys both have such a busy week ahead, which is why I appreciate you taking a little bit of time to talk with me and to share with all of our listeners what you're going to be working on this week. So, Kevin, AGC is asking our members across the country to hold a nationwide coronavirus safety stand down. And this is going to happen this Thursday on April 9. I'd like you to share with all of us, what is the purpose of this? What do we hope to accomplish? And I also want you to share with everybody and walk us through the tools and the resources that AGC has available for everyone to use.
Okay, thanks, Leah. I think the first thing that we want to accomplish with the stand down is educating our construction workforce on the prevention tips to prevent the spread of coronavirus. We have been deemed an essential industry, and I think one of the key points or critical things that we can do to continue working and operating as we have been is to demonstrate not only to the workers but the general public that we're doing our part to prevent the spread of the virus. As far as the stand down is concerned, we, AGC, along with our chapters and members, have partnered to get together on April 9th. We don't have a dedicated time for the stand down, but we'd like for each company to identify what works for them on that day to take a moment, 10 to 15 minutes to sit down and have a conversation. We provided the chapters with 3 toolbox talks that they can use to conduct the stand down. One toolbox talks just talks about the coronavirus basics. What are the symptoms? How's it spread? Excuse me, and how I can protect myself. The second toolbox talk is more geared towards on the job site, things that they encounter daily, cleaning and disinfecting tools, cleaning the high touch surfaces that you might find on the job site, making sure the break areas are cleaned and disinfected after use, making sure that they limit their meetings, if any, their meetings in person, if any, to 10 or less to promote social distancing. So I think the toolbox talks, the first two, are very good at highlighting what coronavirus is. And then the second one is, how do I take those tips that we've been hearing and apply them to a construction site? The third toolbox talk really isn't focused on any prevention type measures. It's dealing with the stress that might come along with a situation like this, where folks are worried about themselves, worried about their families, and just giving them some tips on how they can cope with that during this time of the pandemic. So Some of the other things that we put together are posters. Most of them are largely borrowed from the CDC. We've kind of customized those to make it look more construction-like. We've given them some guidance on how to conduct the stand down, of course, emphasizing the need to limit, the size of crowds and promote social distancing. What we don't want is for a safety stand down on the prevention of the spread of coronavirus to demonstrate, that we're not practicing what we're preaching.
Kevin, can you tell me where should I go to find all of these great resources that you talked about?
We're going to post those to the website that you mentioned,
Okay.
the agc.org/coronavirus. But we also plan to do chapter and member mailings so that they'll have them sent to them directly.
Great. So AGC members can check out AGC of America's page, or they can contact their local chapter if they're listening to this and need some more support or more information.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing that I'll point out is that, we have two versions, one PDF and one Word version that we'll be posting and distributing. The Word is to allow contractors to customize it for their operations.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for all the incredible work that you're doing. And this is really providing a great opportunity, I think, for construction firms everywhere to make sure that everyone on their job sites understands and follows safety guidelines, and that the public as a whole can see all the great work that contractors are doing. Matt, I want to turn to you next. You have been working very hard as well, and I know it's a completely different area, but it's another top priority for us this week. You're analyzing the new Small Business Administration Paycheck Protection Program, and that is a new loan program that was enacted in the most recent coronavirus relief measure. It's been pretty well publicized that the purpose of these loans is to keep businesses operational so that they continue to move forward and pay their employees. I think that the confusion that you've seen in the last couple of days lies with the eligibility guidelines. So we've got some guidance from the U.S. Department of Treasury. And moving into the beginning of this week, the assumption was that construction firms with 500 or less employees would be eligible to apply for these loans. Tell us kind of how you see things potentially evolving and maybe shifting here, and what you're working on for AGC and the construction industry, and the information that you're going to bring to everyone as the week unfolds.
Thanks, Leah. Yeah, as you pointed out, when the coronavirus relief legislation, the so-called CARES Act, was passed into law, the leadership, the congressional leadership, the Secretary of the Treasury, and virtually everybody involved with that legislation very publicly stated that this would apply to businesses with 500 or fewer employees, or if you were an industry that allowed for to qualify under SBA standards and you had a standard that was greater than 500 employees to actually exceed that threshold as well. Last week, the SBA issued something called an interim final rule, which is basically an emergency rule that is issued when they need to get something out quickly. And this, upon a close reading of it, we discovered that the rule as currently drafted would apply an additional standard to businesses where, according to SBA size standards, they're determined whether to qualify for SBA loans according to a different standard called the average annual receipts standard. So in certain industries, you qualify based on the number of employees you have. In other industries, you qualify based on your average annual receipts. So what this would do is basically lump an additional requirement onto business owners, and it's particularly felt in construction because the vast majority of construction and construction-related activities are qualify under the average annual receipts test. So over the weekend, AGC sent a letter to SBA explaining that this is not what the legislative text read. It's not what the Treasury guidance said, and it's also not what the public advocates of the program have said. And that this needs to be addressed in subsequent guidance or in a corrected interim final rule. So we are hopeful that the SBA will be taking action on that as soon as possible. I can tell you personally that I've had AGC members reach out to me saying that they are leery about applying for this program, even though they would like to take advantage of it, simply because of this additional ambiguity about the rule. So we are very hopeful that this will be corrected as quickly as possible, because members are out there, they're struggling, they'd like to take advantage of this program. It's a very useful and good program that should provide a lot of working capital to struggling businesses that they can use on things like payroll, on rent, on mortgage interest, and on utilities, and then to have the money that they actually borrow from the SBA to be forgiven. So it's a very generous program. It's a very useful program, and our guys are in the construction community is very eager to take advantage of it. And we just want to make sure that we can get the maximum number of our members who should qualify to be able to apply.
Thanks so much for your leadership on this, Matt. I know that you're drafting a letter kind of as we speak. You took time out to do this podcast with us, and thank you for that. Don't you also have a webinar that you're planning for this week to bring more information?
Yes, coming up later this week on Wednesday, we will have AGC will be hosting a webinar that will touch on this program, the Paycheck Protection Program, but also some other additional relief measures that were included in the CARES Act, such as some of the tax relief focused on things like the NOL carryback, or relief from other requirements in the tax law that could prove to be very beneficial to members during this economic downturn. So it'll be kind of a combination of an overview of the new programs that were created to try to mitigate some of the impact of the coronavirus, but also some practical measures that contractors can take during an economic downturn that would provide some benefit to them. So we're very hopeful, or it should be a very informative and good discussion, and you can find details about it on the AGC website.
Same website, right, Matt? agc.org/coronavirus.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. All right. So I encourage everyone to check out that website, look for all the great resources that Kevin talked about, sign up to listen to the webinar that Matt's talking about for this Wednesday. And thank you both so much for all the great work that you're doing and for taking the time to share what you're going to be doing in the week ahead. Sounds like you're both going to be super busy. This has been the AGC ConstructorCast. Please be sure to subscribe to ConstructorCast from your podcast app, or you can stream all available episodes right from your computer at www.agc.org/ConstructorCast. We hope that you all stay safe and healthy, and thank you so much for turning to AGC for information.